the screen over here because I'm going to be speaking from the screen over here. If you want to sit over there, that's just fine with me. But if you want to see the screen, you have to come around a little bit. Looks like there's some persons here that weren't with us earlier, so I'm going to do a little background recap of what we've already done. I was requested during this visit to speak on pure devotees that we find in Canto 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam. So far we've spoken about Shukadev Goswami, Maharaj Parikshit, Narada Muni, Srila Vyasadeva, it's all recorded if you didn't attend and you'd like to find out more about these personalities. We had the best part was the discussion that came afterwards, because there are lots of questions and some research after those questions and things like that. Queen Kunti. I hear one of those recordings of Prabhupada chanting and okay. Can you see? Really? I could hold up a mirror and then you could see. You can see. Okay, good for you. You're a very talented person. Like this little boy with his harmonium. Do you see his harmonium? It's just a toy box, an empty toy box. Hare Krishna. So Queen Kunti. This is the largest and longest of all the presentations. So if you get restless, what can I do? 133 slides. That's probably too many because this is a lot of this is Mahabharata. Mahabharata. So Queen Kunti, what can we say? Pure devotee of Krishna. This image is taken from the cover of Teachings of Queen Kunti, a BBT publication. And in the painting that's on the cover, it shows the Ganga flowing by. And so I added these words from her prayers that let her, as the Ganga flows forever towards the sea, let my mind always flow forever towards you. So let's hear a little bit about the exemplary life of Queen Kunti. We'll start with Shurasena. Shurasena was the king of Mathura, and he was the grandfather of both Krishna and the Pandavas. So Krishna and the Pandavas were cousins. They didn't have the same mother and father, but their mother and father of the mother of the Pandavas and the father of Krishna were brother-sister. So here's a chart, and we'll go up. You see that purple-colored one? You can see it, right? Good for you. The purple-colored one has two names, Shurasena and Parjanya. Now, Parjanya, without all the details, because it will take too, if I start going into details, we'll be here forever. Parjanya and Shurasena were in the family line. You see on the upper left, that's Vrishni, and over on the upper right is Andaka. And there were 7 brothers. So often we hear the Vrishni in Bhoja dynasty or Vrishni in Andaka dynasty. So it's the royal family. The royal family. And they're just, very tight family. So as you see, Akrura was directly in line from Vrishni. And, there's details of Shwapalka's son, Akrura. Then, over on just to the right side, one of the sons of Vrishni was Chitra, Rata, etc., etc., Shurasena. And Shurasena had many offspring. One of those offspring was Kunti. Now, we'll hear shortly, Kunti wasn't Kunti from birth, she was Pritha by birth. That was her birth name. But Shurasena had a friend, a companion king, a contemporary king, named Kunti Bhoja, who had no children. Kunti Bhoja asked his dear friend Shurasena if he would be very kind enough to give him his daughter, Pritha, to take care of and accept as an adopted daughter. So the stepfather of Kunti was Kunti Bhoja. So Pritha became Kunti. But Kunti was the daughter of Shurasena, and Vasudeva was one of the sons of Shurasena. And Shurasena had a number of other sons and some other daughters. He was a busy man, taking care of all those children. So Vasudeva and Kunti were brother and sister. And Vasudeva had as children Krishna, Balaram, and Subhadra, and some other sons. And Kunti had sons. The first of those sons is Karna. We'll hear a little bit about Karna and things like that. And then the Pandavas. So here's a little bit that we're going to focus on, because over to the other side, the right side, that's Ugrasena. And one of Ugrasena's sons was Kamsa. Kamsa put his father in jail. Kamsa was a naughty boy. Took over the kingdom. Ruthless personality. And look, there's Ugrasena had a brother named Devaka, and Devaka's daughter, one of Devaka's daughters was Devaki. So Vasudeva over there on the left married Devaki, and then they had children. So let's go forward, because this is just getting a picture of the ancestry, and they're all connected together as cousins and immediate relatives. This is taken directly from Prabhupada's Teachings of Queen Kunti. You saw the cover. That was the first image. The tragic and heroic figure of Queen Kunti emerges from an explosive era in the history of ancient India, as related in the Mahabharata, India's grand epic poem of 110,000 couplets. Kunti was the wife of King Pandu and the mother of 5 illustrious sons known as the Pandavas. So along with Kunti was Vasudeva, her brother. And we see Vasudeva married to Devaki, and Krishna appeared as their son, and of all unlikely places in a prison, because Ugrasena placed his father in prison. Kamsa put his father in prison and put Vasudeva and Devaki in prison. This is taken from Mahabharata. So when she was little, again from Mahabharata, her father Shurasena had given her as a baby to his close friend King Kunti Bhoja, who had no children. She was named Pritha at birth, but became better known as Kunti after being raised by Kunti Bhoja. So that little girl in the middle, that's Kunti, is a little girl. And either side is her father and her stepfather. So she was known, according to teachings of Queen Kunti. Mahabharata relates that Kunti was gifted with beauty and character. She rejoiced in the law, dharma, and was great in her vows. She also possessed an unusual benediction. Pretty unusual benediction. Most unusual benediction. Never heard of such a benediction. Here's the benediction. When she was staying at Kunti Bhoja's home, or palace, she had a service, and their service was taking care of guests. And once upon a time, who would come as a guest but Durvasa Muni? No, many people just hearing his name is, whoa, Durvasa Muni. Because Durvasa Muni was a partial incarnation of Lord Shiva. And as Lord Shiva is easily pleased and easily angered, Durvasa Muni was also easily pleased and easily angered. So everyone was like, whoa, stay away from Durvasa Muni, because you don't know when he got angry. When he gets angry, it's explosive. But she was nice, very cultured young lady, and she served him so nicely, he gave her a benediction because he had the capacity to see into her future and knew that she would have a problem having children. Without the detail, we'll find out the detail of what the problem was. So he gave her this benediction, young, unmarried girl. Sometime in the future, you just take this mantra, add the name of a particular demigod, and through the agency of this particular demigod, you'll conceive a child with the demigod. And off he went. Well, here's a nice painting showing he's giving her his blessings. And there's some people in the background wondering, wow, what's going on? Is he going to curse her or is he going to bless her? So she was curious. Again, this is from the Bhagavatam directly, chapter 13 of Canto 1. As a matter of inquisitiveness, she called for the sun god. There he is, standing in the hallway. And he came to respond to her invoking of that mantra, and she declined. And he reassured her that her virginity would be intact and that the child would be born very quickly, wouldn't have to walk an unmarried lady walking around pregnant for some period of time. The son would be born quickly. And she agreed. And what she agreed to resulted in the first of her children, which was Karna. Now, there were many. Karna is a very enigmatic personality. Sometimes extremely virtuous, sometimes extremely diabolical. And it has to do with his background. So when he was born, Karna was born with a coat of armor on his body, which also grew as his body grew. Bright earrings, eyes resembling those of a lion, shoulders very broad. And then we're going to hear a little bit, and you should have received. Yes? Did they receive? You didn't send it yet. You did send it. Don't look now. I'll narrate it, mini, and then you can look at it later, because if you start looking now, it won't be nice. So who was Karna before he was Karna? Well, we'll tell you. He was a Dambodhava. Even the name sounds like, what? Dambodhava. So he was a bad guy. Kind of ruthless bad guy. And here's the history. Here's the little boy, Dambodhava, praying, undergoing great severe austerities to the sun god, Suryadev, and he appealed to sun god, the Suryadev, for immortality. And the reply was, sorry, Charlie, no immortality, because once born, one must die. So the little boy became disappointed and looked down at the ground, scratched a foot with his foot on the ground, and then looked up, beaming. And Suryadev, this is Mahabharata, this document that you have received, and you'll read it later. Surya was curious. He can't become immortal, but this young fellow is really determined. So what's he going to come up with? So he asked for a benediction that he couldn't say no to. I want a coat of armor, 1,000 coats of armor that can't be removed unless someone isn't prepared to engage in austerities for 1,000 years, and then one of the 1,000 coats of armor can fall off. But then that person that did the austerities for 1,000 years will die. So, do the math. Who's going to live for that long? And then die. And then, 999 other ones. And he asked for immortality. He couldn't give it. Wasn't given it. So he figured out the Hiranyakashipu program. Figured out a backdoor. So it was granted to him. Now, where is this found? If you would like to read the original, it comes from Madhvacharya's commentary on Mahabharata. We heard a little bit about Madhvacharya visiting Vyasadeva. So one of the things that he did, Madhvacharya, is he wrote a commentary on Mahabharata. Very detailed, very interesting. Some things that our Gaudiya Vaishnava line is not accustomed to hearing and sometimes would not agree with. But it's just authoritative Madhvacharya. So what happened was, you can read in the document, what happened was, there was went the wrong direction. One of the Murti, the wife of Dharma and the daughter of Daksha, gave birth to Narayan. She requested her sons, or son, sometimes singular, sometimes plural, Narayan, to do the needful, to deal with this Dambodhava, who then, after the 1,000 coats of armor became took on another name, Sahasra Kavacha. So we'll take care of it. She asked her sons, and so the sons came, confronted Dambodvava or Sahasra Kavacha for they're unparalleled in battle. So he challenged them to battle because he was used to going around and beating up on everybody. So they accepted. Nara was the first. So 1,000 years of austerity, and Nara, then there's details and details, just the quick version, did battle, and the one of the coats of armor fell off, leaving 999 other coats of armor, and Nara, died because that was part of the benediction given by Surya. But lo and behold, Narayana came back, simply glanced at Nara, and he came back to life. Guess what happened next? They did a switcheroo, and Narayana did battle and did austerities for 1,000 years, and then another coat of armor, and then he died, because Narayana doesn't die, and anyway. And Nara came and revived him, and so it went. So they were now down to one coat of armor left. One coat of armor left. So he went back to Surya and sought protection, because I'm going to be killed. So now he was given this benediction by the sun god Surya. You can take birth on earth and not be killed by Narayan. So he took birth on earth as, guess who? Karna, with a coat of armor. And to keep the word, the promise that they had made to their mother, Narayan took birth on earth as Krishna Arjuna. So Krishna and Arjuna are none other than Narayana, or Narayana are none other than Krishna and Arjuna. Because we hear this, and now it's confirmed in at least Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnayas by Madhvacharya, that wherever Krishna appears, Arjuna is with him, and whenever Krishna appears with Arjuna with him, Narayana are also there. I want to stay focused on Kunti, because there's many things that, Mahabharata is very complex, and you can get spin out on this one topic for some time. But we're going to move on, because Kunti, had a child born, her first child, the son of Suryadev, that had this coat of armor on. And she's like, here's this baby, and how am I going to explain having a baby? What to do? She finally concluded she had to relinquish the baby. Although a mother doesn't want to do that. But, she had her sense of duty and a sense of character and everything. So she understood, because Surya was the father, the Surya would protect the child. And so with that confidence that Surya will protect the child, she, with her assistant nurse, she put the child in a basket, went to the bank of the river Ganges, and placed the basket in the river. Tears from her eyes, and she cried out of pain. So painful, mother having to send her firstborn child off the Ganga in a wicker basket. She beseeched many of the gods to look after her son and prayed that he would find a good father and mother. And sure enough, that's what happened. And after some time, the basket floating down the river was found by the chariot driver of Dhritarashtra. His name was Adiratha. So he, Karna, having a Kshatriya spirit like anything, was raised by a man who was not a Kshatriya, but a chariot driver. So he became Suta, the son of a Sudra, chariot driver. That didn't suit him at all. Some time passed, and Kunti, being now the daughter or the adopted daughter of Kunti Bhoja, her Swayamvar ceremony was arranged. She was going to select her husband. So all the suitors, the kings and people, came to Kunti Bhoja's palace, and she, present in the assembly, was Pandu. And I'll just read because it's nice. This is from Mahabharata. When the many other kings assembled there saw Pandu, broad-chested and with eyes like a furious bull, they considered him to be a second Indra. He outshone all other monarchs like the sun rising in the morning and obscuring the stars. When Kunti saw the powerful Hastinapur monarch gazing at her, her mind became agitated. Trembling with emotions, she walked slowly towards him and shyly placed the nuptial garland around his neck. So that's the sign that they then became king and queen. Kunti Bhoja, daughter Kunti, married Pandu. Yay. And they lived happily ever after. Almost. Something got in the way. Later, King Pandu had a second wife named Madri. She was the sister of the king of Madra. So now he has two queens, Pandu. And one fine day, he was in the forest hunting. Because kings could do that, they would practice their skills for necessity's sake to defend innocent and protect innocent people. So there were two deer that were engaged in mating, and while they were engaged in mating, he shot an arrow and half killed one of the deer. And that deer that was half killed transformed himself into a sage, because it was actually a sage. And he was taking the form of a deer and enjoying with a female deer. And before the sage died, he gave a curse to Pandu. This is a painting, one of these complicated old-style paintings. And there's the mating of the deer, and he shot the male deer as they were mating. And so the detail is he was cursed by the sage that as you have caused me to die, you didn't know I was a Brahmana, so you don't get the death penalty. But it's against culture, not culture of kings, that when then animals are engaged in union like this, you don't kill them. And you did. So as you had to undergo this, as I am being killed, you will also die when you, with your wives, engage in union with either of them. So Pandu, hearing this sage then died. Pandu spoke to his horrified wives. Vanaprastha, I'm going to give up my position as a king and going to go off to the forest, live by begging. And this way I shall transcend the dualities of this world and rise to the highest regions where the Lord himself resides. So this is Mahabharata kind of conversation. So he's saying goodbye to his two wives. They don't like that idea. Let us accept the order of Vanaprastha together, retirement in the forest. We shall be happy practicing asceticism with you. If you leave us today, we shall not bear our lives any longer. So he agreed. They'll live life of ascetics in the forest. So they left the capital and took the life of ascetics. So what does that leave back in Hastinapur? Dhritarashtra. The blind elder brother became the would-be protector of the kingdom for some time. He didn't have children. Pandu didn't have children. With his mind fixed only on salvation, Pandu lived quite simply in Sapta Srota. That's the place in the forest where he resided. With his two wives, they kept the same practices. You see in the drawing, he's doing some yagya. One of the yagyas that he was regularly doing was Shraddha ceremony. Shraddha is an offering to ancestors. So it reminded him, I don't have any descendants. So how the ancestors of mine going to take care of offering Shraddha to me later. So there's a rule, if the husband cannot produce children, then another can produce children with the wife. So he made this request, particularly of Kunti. And the request was, please accept, he consulted sages, please accept that you will conceive a child by another man besides me, your husband. And she didn't say, no way, Jose, but she basically said, I have a better idea. The better idea is, Durvasa Muni long ago gave me this benediction that if I call one of the demigods, they can produce children, because he knows going to have children, difficulty having children. So Pandu liked the idea. Much better than just somebody, it's a demigod. And so she, under the instruction of her husband to do so, she called Dharma. And after calling Dharma, sure enough, as it happened with Surya, Dharma came, they united, and after some time, a son was born. When the son was born, a voice from the sky said, this child will be called Yudhishthir, and he'll be very virtuous. He will be splendid, determined, renounced, and famous throughout the three worlds. Pretty good. And so one son, and then Pandu said, second son, please. So the second son, she called for Vayu. And when Vayu came, after some time, Bhima was born. The demigod of wind, who begot the mighty Bhima. Upon Bhima's birth, the supernatural voice said, this child will be the foremost of all strong men. That's the image on the right, that's Vayu, by the way. And wind god. Then there's a detail that's found in Mahabharata to illustrate the strength of Bhima. One time, there was a lion's roar, and they jumped.
Here's what I found.
They jumped, and hearing the sound of the roar. And when there was a sound of the roar, the child, Bhima, fell off a cliff and landed on the rocks below. And Pandu was in anxiety, and Kunti was in anxiety. They went to see if the child was alive. And they, not only he was alive, but he smashed all the rocks when he fell to the ground below. And Very powerful. Pandu gently lifted the child and took him back to Kunti. So who's next? Who's third in line? Arjuna. So then he made a request, Kunti, for 1 year observe austerities and call Indra. So that's what happened. Kunti invoked Indra, who came to her and begot Arjuna. As soon as the prince was born, the same celestial voice. Oh, Kunti, this child will be as strong as Kartavirya and Kshibi. Now, there's not time to go into it, but Kartavirya Arjuna, super. There were 3 supers, powerful. Kshatriya. And Kshibi. Kshibi is known for other things, but 2 very powerful kings. Very powerful. Arjuna will be very powerful and as invincible in battle as Indra himself. He, this son of yours, will spread your fame everywhere and acquire many divine weapons. This was announced at the time of his birth. And sure enough, much later, he did exactly that. We got celestial weapons, as was prophesied. There's details and details because of time. We're not going into all those details. So his expertise, this is a painting where he's being trained by Dronacharya and others in the art of archery. And, he had the capacity to see a target in a distant place and always be perfect in his aim and etc. and his skill. It was unequal to anyone. In course of time, what happened was, a little bit of a detail. Their time in their exile was lapsing. It was very clear that there was going to be a war. Arjuna was reminded that he would gain celestial weapons. So they were in the Himalayas, and he started going in the northerly direction in the Himalayas, up and up and up and up and up, and disappeared and went to the celestial realm. And in the celestial realm, many things happened, including, there's details and details, but a bow, the Gandiva bow, was gifted to him by Varuna. There was some history of how it got to Varuna's hand. And a quiver that had arrows that had no limit, inexhaustible quiver, given to him by Varuna. In addition, Lord Shiva gave him his Pashupat Astra. Agni gave him some weapons, celestial wind and fire weapons, and so forth and so on. So he's all loaded up. We're going to hear more about his celestial weapons. Stay tuned. Then there's child number 4 and 5. So Madri, Kunti was asked by Pandu, can you give the mantra to Madri and will work for Madri? It's the mantra that should work. So she called the Ashwini Kumaras, and 2 sons were born. And together, doesn't say that what celestial voice had to say about their birth, but there's the 5 Pandavas, and here's a nice set of deities of the 5 Pandavas. And then, as was prophesied by the Brahmana, that he would die if he attempted to have union with his wife. So one fine day, he became subjected to lust and approached inappropriately Madri. Madri warned him, etc., 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 and he couldn't yield. So now the curse of the sage Kindama was about to happen. He fell dead. So what to do? Here are these two wives with 5 children off in the forest. Kunti prayed for strength. Somehow this was God's arrangement. The ways of providence were always mysterious. But what should be done now? What was her duty? She gently stroked the head of her younger co-wife and said, Madri, there is only one recourse for me. Please allow me to ascend to heaven with our Lord. Rise up and raise our children. Give me the body, and tightly embracing it, I shall enter fire. Well, it went the other way around. They were both prepared, but Madri requested Kunti to remain to look after the children. So then they agreed. And Vyasadeva met that recommendation. So she had to live the loss of her first son, the way that first son was lost, the loss of her husband with 5 strapping boys. And there's a detail. We visited the place where the funeral rites were performed. And Madri entered into the funeral pyre along with her husband, leaving Kunti with 5 boys. So Kunti, went to the rishis and asked what to do. The advice of the rishis was they should immediately return to Hastinapur with her boys. So there's some detail. The age of the children at this point in time, Yudhisthira, the eldest, was 16, and then there's 1 year gap for each of the other boys. So 16, 15, and 14, and 13. So at that age, they returned. Now, if they've been in the forest for quite some time, and just after, there's a detail, just after news came that Kunti had given birth to Yudhisthira, the firstborn son of Pandu, Gandhari was pregnant, but her pregnancy wasn't coming forth. And when she heard, this is a detail from Mahabharata, when she heard that Kunti gave birth first, it meant that her son would be the next king. Because if Gandhari's son was born first, then her son would become the next king. But that's not how it happened. And so, in frustration, she pounded her abdomen, and 100 sons came at the same time, with the eldest being Duryodhana. So all the while they're in the forest, Duryodhana has gotten really attached to the idea of being the successor king. And Dhritarashtra has gotten really attached to the idea that his son Duryodhana would become the successor king. But it's not by law, that wasn't to happen. But attachments kind of supersede law sometimes. So they returned, and big procession described in Mahabharata, siddhas and charanas and big shebang. Somehow they got back to Hastinapur quickly by mystic powers, and everyone was very, very, very happy and amazed to see the Pandavas surrounded by rishis and charanas and siddhas. And everyone was very happy except one person, Duryodhana. So here's the text from Mahabharata. Everyone welcomed Kunti and her sons except Duryodhana and his brothers, 99 of them. As the eldest son of the blind king, Duryodhana had enjoyed the most prestige in the Kuru house. When the Pandavas arrived, however, all that changed. Pandu's sons were gentle, modest, and devoted to their elders. They soon became very dear to Bhishma, Vidura, and the other senior Kurus. Jealousy, envy, competition, and worst of all, Bhima. You know, boys will play, and when boys would play, Bhima was like, you know, powerful as 10,000 elephants, and when they would wrestle, he'd always win, and he'd throw one of the boys up in the air, and, you know, like, I can't handle it, I can't handle it. So he, Duryodhana, who couldn't handle it, has to plan with his uncle. Shakuni was the brother of King Gandhar, so the brother of his mother, the brother of his mother, Shakuni. So he took up residence where they were in Hastinapur, and Dushasana, he was equally bad. They made a murder plot, specifically to kill Bhima. This is plot number 1. Then there's others following. See, it's going to take a while. We're on slide number 42 of 133. What to do? We're at a third done. Hare Krishna. So the plan was big festival. Big festival. And after the big festival, big feast. And after the big festival with the big feast, they go to the river for sporting activities. And they fed Bhima so much poison it would kill anybody, but it didn't kill him. So his body is loaded with poison. And when they got to the riverside to have sporting activities, boys together, he started getting a little tired. So it was time to go back. And Bhima said, let me just rest a little bit. You go back. And that was all it took. Immediately, along with Dushasana, they bound Bhima's hands, arms, legs with strong cord and rolled them into the river. Murder. What happened? Magic happened. As he went the course of the river, and as he went down the bottom, carried by underwater currents, it carried him to a lower region where Nagaloka, Nagas or serpents reside in Nagaloka, and some sacred rivers access that place. So when he went into Nagaloka, the serpents were yummy. Here comes a body we can bite. So they started biting his body, and it just happened the poison in the Nagas were the exact antidote for the poison that was in Bhima's body. And when Bhima came out of the poisoned condition, he just burst the ropes open and started having battle with the Nagas. So when he was there, Bhima met a Kuru ancestor, the great grandfather of Shurasena. That doesn't say how he got there, but he was there he was in Nagaloka. And they fed him pots of nectar, and he could eat a lot and drink a lot. He was one of the things he had a big appetite. 10,000 elephants worth of strength after many pots of nectar, and he was gone for a number of days. So meanwhile, back in Hastinapur, Kunti's four sons came back, and one was missing. So they went back to the riverside to look for him, and they couldn't find him. So Kunti went to Vidura. Oh, wise one, I'm afraid for Bhima's safety. He did not return with the others. I often see an evil look in Duryodhana's eye. I know he is filled with malice toward Bhima. Perhaps he has killed him. So she's having this discussion with Vidura. And Vidura gives very wise advice. Don't think in this way. The great Rishi Vyas has said, your sons, plural, will be long-lived. His words can never be false. So this reference to Vyasadeva again, because we heard about Vyasadeva yesterday. We didn't hear everything, but we heard basic things. So he was advising them all along, and he said they're going to live a long life. So his words can never be false. So we don't know what's going to happen, but there's a great future predicted for all of your sons. 8 days passed. Kunti's sons and Kunti waited for Bhima. On the 9th day, he came running towards Hastinapur. They saw him and they were very happy. Bhima's alive. And Bhima told them the whole story. What happened? Yudhisthira said, don't make a sound about this, because Duryodhana and his buddies, they have alliances. They have all their friends and people standing behind them. Now is not the time to say something. Virtuous and wise Yudhisthira called Mona Vrata. Don't say a peep. Now back to Kunti. Kunti is in anxiety for the safety of her sons. She knows that Duryodhana is unscrupulous and who knows what the next thing he's going to do. So she's offering prayers to Krishna with great concern. Krishna heard her prayers. And Krishna then sent Akrura. Remember that family chart? Akrura was in that family chart. He's a member of the royal family. So Krishna sent Akrura, both to assess the situation and to, indirectly give her Krishna's association through Akrura as the representative of Krishna, the minister, like that. And as a detail that's in Mahabharata. But after this comes chronologically the events that are going on in, this is Dwarka, by the way, but events going on in Dwarka, Shatadanya was killed. The Shamataka jewel scene situation happened. Then Satyabhama became the wife of Krishna. Balaram had stayed in Mithila. Balaram stayed in Mithila after that situation. So Duryodhana wasn't done yet. The first plan was to kill Bhima. Now came a plan to kill all of them. So the plan was cooked up. He informed the plan to Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra didn't like the plan, but he couldn't say no, because Duryodhana, wouldn't take no anyways. So the plan was they would build a house in a special place with highly inflammable materials, like touch a match to the house and it up in flames. After the house was constructed, there was a place, Varanavata, and every year there's a big festival, and there's a big festival. The Pandavas were invited, go take part in this big festival and stay in this specially built house. Ha, ha, ha. And we're going to burn you alive in the house, but we won't tell you that. But that was the plan. Fortunately, they weren't so tight-lipped about it. Vidura came to hear. Virtuous Vidura, so the three brothers. The eldest, the blind Dhritarashtra. The middle one, Pandu, who's now dead. And Vidura. So Vidura had a private conversation. this is his Vidura having some conversation with Dhritarashtra, but because he regularly would counsel Dhritarashtra, who knew his younger brother was wise, but he couldn't do what he said. So he spoke just before, on their way out the door from the palace to go to the house of Lak. Whoops, it's going the wrong direction. Something very like a puzzle. And Kunti couldn't understand. What did he say? So he explained to her what he said, so that people wouldn't know that he ratted on their plan. One who knows that there are sharp weapons capable of cutting the body, although not made of metal, like a fire weapon, is not injured by them. He survives who understands that the consumer of wood and straw, that's fire, does not reach the dwellers of a hole in the forest. There was the plan was Vidura made an arrangement for a tunnel in the house of Lak, so when the day came where they're going to ignite the house, they could go through the escape tunnel. The house would burn, but they wouldn't. He survives who understands that the consumer of wood and straw does not reach the dwellers of a hole in the forest. Always stay alert. One who keeps his senses under control can never be overcome by any enemy. So what was that? What did Uncle Akrura say, or Vidura say? Yudhishthira understood, so he explained to them. And then, sure enough, Vidura sent a miner. Miners make holes, like, holes in mountains to get minerals and gold and things like that. So he sent a miner who was given the task of building like an escape hatch, a hole in the floor, then a tunnel that goes out to the river. So the miner did what the miner did. These are some paintings. It shows on the left, on the right, that when the fire was being lit, they knew. So they went down that hatch, and then that's the upper right, and then the upper left, that's the house of Lak, went into flames instantly, and down at the bottom, the Pandavas and Kunti were escaped. And somebody was waiting for them on the other side. Guess who it was? Vidura, to put them in a boat and take them across the river. So from the Kauravas' side, they thought they were dead. There's some detail. That very night, there was a family of 5 plus their mother, and they burned in the fire. So when they found the bones, they found the bones of a mother and 5 boys. They thought that's them. But it wasn't them. It was some guests that stayed in the house of Lak. And on the other side, you see Bhima, powerful Bhima. He's got the 2 younger sons, brothers, Nakula and Sahadev. And then, he's like carrying them like they're little kids. In fact, he's carrying all of them. Bhima's a very powerful guy. And so it's at night, and the Kauravas think they're dead, but there's another obstacle. Let's see that fellow in the background? Hidimba. Meal. This came right where I wanted, so he's a flesh-eating Rakshasa, and he looks hungry. Now, before he attacked, he had a sister. And his sister, there you see him in the back right, his sister was Hidimbi. And Hidimbi, when she saw Bhima, was, woo, 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 let's get married. Wait a minute. And while she's doing this, let's get married thing, here comes Hidimba. And there's a big battle between Bhima and Hidimba. Guess who won? And Hidimba gets finished. The other Pandavas wake up hearing this big battle. And then there's Hidimbi making an appeal. This is on the right. On the left is the battle. Hidimbi is making an appeal to Kunti. Please say yes. I'd like to marry your son. And so, what to do? She's a Rakshasi. But, she's speaking in this way, and so she consults Yudhishthir. Yudhishthir is here giving a lesson to Hidimbi, what's the rules of marriage? And she says yes to all the rules. So sure enough, they got married. Bhima's got a wife named Hidimbi, along with, it hasn't happened yet, but coming up is Draupadi. So they're going to have two wives. So with that combination, Hidimbi and Bhima came a son, Ghototkacha. And unlike his mom and his, stepbrother or uncle, he was virtuous. And he became a very favorite of the Pandavas, very devoted to their service, and he has a key role to play during the battle. So remember his name, because we're on slide 57. The battle's going to come up, and he's going to play an important role. Ghototkacha. So now there's the Pandavas. Everyone's thinking, the Kauravas are thinking they're dead. They meet, Vyasadeva comes to them and tells them, the great difficulty you've had to undergo, great misfortune, you're very dear to me. I have a recommendation. So Vyasadev's recommendation is going to be a good one. He comes with them and takes them to Ekachakra. Have we heard of Ekachakra before? Would you like to hear something about Ekachakra? Ekachakra is the place where Lord Nityananda took birth. You've heard, now does it ring a bell? Ekachakra? Yes. Much later, Lord Nityananda took birth in Ekachakra, the same place where Vyasadeva took Kunti and the five Pandavas to kind of hide out. Everyone thinks they're dead. Just lay low because, your lives are at risk. So while they were there, there was this problem. There's always a problem. There was a demon, a Rakshasa demon, that would go and plunder and attack the devotees in Ekachakra. So they made a deal with the Rakshasa demon. The arrangement was, and at a certain period of time, they would sacrifice one of their members and a big cartload of food to the demon, and they would eat the cartload of food. They'd eat the driver. So this is Queen Kunti hearing from the couple that they were staying at the home of that it was their turn. The father and of the wife and two children, he was to be sacrificed. So they were living by charity like this. This is Pushkar's drawings to illustrate a book on Mahabharata that Hridayananda Maharaj wanted to publish, and it never got published. But we have some of the drawings. So they lived like Brahmanas, living on charity in a place that's a village of Brahmanas. There's Kunti in the background, hearing the family in big anxiety. The father of the family has to be sacrificed. So Kunti came forward and said, let my son go. Instead, Bhima, that one. And he said, no, you're our guest, we can't do this. And she said, no, you don't understand about Bhima. No problem. So the demon's name was Bakasura, and it shows the cart, and as he was driving the cart, I mean, the Bakasura would eat the oxen and eat the driver and eat but Bhima was eating everything that was in the cart. You know one of the names of Bhima starts with a V? Rikasura. Did you know that one? Rikodara. Rikodara. Uncontrollable appetite. He could eat and eat and eat and eat. So he ate everything that was in the cart. And boy, did Bakasura get angry, and he started to pound Bhima. That was a big mistake. Bhima finished Bakasura. There's a nice pushkar drawing with tree trunks and this and that, and so they're still in this. The Hastinapur folks think the Kauravas think they're dead. Then comes a very interesting detail that becomes very important in the whole Mahabharata story, because Draupadi, her Swayamvar ceremony is going to take place. They hear about it, and then there's this competition that we asked this question the other day. One of the young devotees answered the question without the revolving disc. Who answered that question? Was it you? Yes? It was you? Who was it? Who was it answered the question? Okay, whoever answered it, somebody answered it. They missed the revolving. So see in the painting, that's a very nice painting. There's a pool, and one was supposed to, the archer was supposed to see the pool. The pool has the water moving. So when the water moves, the reflection isn't clear. Then up on top, there's a revolving disc. You see the disc. There's just one hole in the disc. And on the other side of the revolving disc, there's a fish. And the challenge was pierce the eye of the fish through that hole in the revolving disc. That you can't look at the revolving disc. You have to look at the pool of water, and the pool of water is moving. Like Mission Impossible, right? So the challenge was set forth, and everyone was invited to come forward and meet the challenge. Karna was one of the first ones, and Draupadi said no. And he's insulted because he's a Kshatriya spirited person, born of the sun god Surya, but he doesn't know it. But he has this coat of armor, so he knows he's not. Or anyway, she said no, because you're born the son of a Shudra. You're a Sutta. And so he became very angry and then stepped forward. They think he's dead, but as you see in the painting, at least Krishna knew he wasn't dead. And after many Kshatriyas failed, Arjuna stepped forward, and sure enough, aiming at the eye of the golden fish in the ceiling, and he's looking at the reflection. This one he's looking at the reflection. This one he's looking at the reflection. This one he's cheating. It's just the artist. It's not that he did cheat. And sure enough, he pierced the eye of the fish. And everyone was, look at that. Worst of all was Karna, like, forget it. He gets the hand of Draupadi. So there she comes with the garland on the occasion of her Swayamvar ceremony in the palace of Drupada. She garlands Arjuna. But it's not over yet. When this happens, there's a big battle, and a big battle. Do battle with Bhima. Look at him, tree trunks. There's Arjuna with his bow and arrow, and there's everybody else, and finished. Big battle. The Pandavas won. And Draupadi is taken back to a place where Kunti was, because Kunti wasn't there for this whole scene. And they're outside, knock, knock, knock. Yes, who's there? It's us. We brought a surprise. We've won a special gem. And Kunti from the inside said, very good. Share it amongst yourselves. Here's the painting. Just see the wonderful jewel we've obtained today. Now, they're outside, and she hasn't seen what's going on. And now, what to do? Kunti, has made a little statement. Look how big the body of Bhima looks like. Powerful guy. And then Arjuna and Yudhisthira, and there's little Draupadi. She's got to be shared by all 5 brothers. So what to do? Because Kunti said, but how can you do this? So they consulted Vyas. Once again, Vyas to the rescue. So Vyas said, no problem. It went, not only they were concerned and Kunti was concerned, but Draupadi was concerned. So they went to back to Drupad, and there's this whole big conference going on. And Vyas says to Drupad, I wish to speak with you in private. Vyasadeva stood up, took Drupada by the hand. They went to the king's private chamber. Everyone waited outside. Vyasa explained that this marriage conforms with virtue. Here's why. Draupadi, Draupadi, in her previous life, was the daughter of a rishi. And as the daughter of a rishi, she was praying to Lord Shiva for a qualified husband. In her prayer, she asked the deity, Lord Shiva, 5 times for a powerful husband. And Shiva said, so be it. Since your next life, you ask 5 times, you'll have 5 husbands. And Vyas said, Shiva can't possibly have made a mistake in Dharma. Vyasadeva, sorry about that. Vyasadeva further explained the princess who had came out of a fire. It's a detail. She was an expansion of the goddess Lakshmi. She had appeared specifically to become the Pandavas' wives. So Vyasadeva said all these things in private to Drupad. And then, to confirm everything, Vyasadeva bestowed upon the king divine sight where he could see the Pandavas as they had been in previous lives. In his inner vision, Drupad saw the blazing form of Indra that each brother had possessed, their celestial bodies adorned with golden crowns. You're going to see a nice painting of that. Drupad, he's like falling off his seat, said to the sage, great Rishi, there's nothing outside your knowledge of or capabilities. My mind is now satisfied. What has been ordained by the celestials must always come to pass. We are all instruments in the hands of destiny. Let my daughter accept all 5 brothers as her husbands. So here's a painting showing the vision on the bottom painting. Here they're all sitting together. Then the bottom painting is he takes them into a private place and she gives them this vision. And they lived happily ever after. Almost. So, although rare, they accepted the conclusion of Yudhisthira, of Vyasadeva, and she was married. Kunti's word was upheld. Religious principles weren't transgressed. Vyasadeva sanctioned everything. So she now has 5 husbands. And a big celebration. So all this is taking place at the palace or the kingdom of Drupad. The kingdom of Drupad is in Kampilia. So Vidura makes a visit to Kampilia, Everyone thought that they were dead. And he knows that they weren't dead because he made their escape arrangement, and he had the boat waiting on the other side of the tunnel. So he knew they weren't dead. So he went to the kingdom of Drupad and invited the Pandavas back to Hastinapur. No problem, right? Problem. Duryodhana. So next scene, there's always an obstacle, right? Welcome. And that's not just an obstacle in the Hare Krishna movement. There's an obstacle in the nature of the material world. That if you're an elevated person like the Pandavas, the big obstacles. So Dhritarashtra made a decision. They can live in a forest. Kandavaprastha. Later, Kandavaprastha became Indraprastha. And how did that happen? It's a detail, which long story. I'm not going to go into the long story, but there was Agni needed some herbs and and in the forest was Mayadanava, and Mayadanava's life was saved by Arjuna, without the detail, and so there he is, Mayadanava, pleading or thanking profusely Arjuna for saving his life. And he wants to do something for Arjuna. Arjuna says, no, I don't do my service to get something. So it's a service. It's just my duty, performance of my duty. And Krishna said, no, you should take something from him. You know, Krishna does what Krishna does. He has mystic powers. Have him build a mystical palace for your brothers and Draupadi and Kunti out here in the forest. And he'll give it a nice name, Indraprastha. So sure enough, he built this fantastic, look at this palace. They're living in a forest, and now they're living in a palace in Indraprastha. Gift of Mayadanava. And, the conch shell given by Mayadanava. The conch shell came from Mainaka Lake, and a club of the king of the Danavas was given to Bhima. Bhima's now got super club. Gift of Mayadanava. So Krishna was there. So Krishna said, let's have a big festival, invite everybody to come to Indraprastha. So Duryodhana came. But when Duryodhana came, it's like a mystical place, not only spectacular place, but land looked like water and water looked like land. So he went walking along, thinking he was walking on land, and he fell into a pool of water. And Krishna was there with his queens, and everyone was laughing and laughing, and Yudhishthira said, stop laughing, he's an exalted person. He knew that he had multiple murder plans. But it's a point of character from Yudhishthira's case. Respect him because he's from a respectable family, although his behavior is bad. And Krishna encouraged, no, laugh, it's good. Because Krishna wanted the battle. Why did Krishna want the battle? For the same reason that he appeared in the earth. Vinashaya cha duskritam. The battle was a practical way to eliminate the duskritis. So Duryodhana was really ticked off. Everyone's laughing at him. They've got this, instead of a forest, they got this palace, and boy, was he envious. Boy, was he in get-back mentality. And while in Indraprastha, Krishna went back to Dwarka. When Krishna went back to Dwarka, after some time, he got an invitation. Krishna received an invitation to come again to Indraprastha and perform the Rajasuya sacrifice. There's details. In principle, Rajasuya means the emperor of kings. And it's a formal ceremony, a big, big ceremony. And at the Rajasuya festival, Krishna was honored. This is where Shishupal got chopped because he didn't like Krishna being honored. And after some time, Krishna departs Indraprastha. And as he's departing for Indraprastha, there's this concern. My dear Keshava, you're the supreme soul of the universe. You're always kindly disposed towards everyone, but you especially protect your devotees. From the day that Akrura arrived in Hastinapur, I knew you were thinking of the welfare of myself and my sons. This is Kunti's words. I am confident that whatever difficulties we may experience are arranged by providence for our ultimate good. Do you know anybody that's undergoing some difficulty? I know a few people that are undergoing some difficulty. Is Krishna looking out for them? Maybe. Not maybe. Krishna looks out for his devotees. Samoham sarvabhuteshu. At the same time, he's impartial, but he's partial. Like a loving father. Impartial to his devotees. So here we have a big assembly scene, and it hasn't happened yet, but it's about to happen in this big assembly. The Rajasuya Yajna has happened. Yudhishthira is now officially the emperor of the world. So the Pandavas, the Kauravas, come up with this dice game plan. Shakuni and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, there's a dice game, and they lose everything. And after losing everything, particularly Karna wants to see Draupadi disgraced in public. So Dushasana does the dirty work, Krishna does the saving of Draupadi. She was dragged into the public assembly by her hair. See up on the upper left, there's the blind Dhritarashtra. Next to him was grandfather Bhishma. Next to him was Dronacharya, a Brahmana, pointing his finger like that. You know who that is? Karna. So Krishna protected her, because Krishna always protects his devotees. And the result was they were exiled for a number of years. And Kunti stayed back. That she's crying. She stayed back at the home of Vidura while they went in exile. And one of the details is so many years of exile, and the final year incognito. That's the images on the left with the names of who was who. So Arjuna in the middle on the left, he was the dance teacher, and so forth and so on. And the lower right, that's Draupadi. She became the hairdresser of the king of Virat. Now there was a problem. There's always a problem. Almost always a problem. But wait a while, there'll be a problem. So she, the wife of the king, Sudeshna was the name of the wife of the king of Virat. She had a brother, and Kichaka was the name of the brother, and Draupadi had become the hairdresser and, attending to the needs of the queen. So she has another name just to conceal their identity during the incognito period. And Kichika was powerful and nasty. And he directly spoke to her in such a way that was like didn't leave any question what was on his mind. And she wanted nothing to do with it. And so he, the Kichika, consulted his sister, Sudeshna, and Sudeshna suggested to Kichika, go find my hairdresser, Sarindri, and invite her to come and do some service. And so he did, and he said what he said, and she, who had nothing to do with him, and he wasn't going to take no for an answer, and it got to be really ugly, and she pushed him. Draupadi wasn't a wimp. She was a tough lady. And he took exception, and so many things happened. He came into the royal assembly. He kicked her. He was approaching her in the public assembly, and she pushed him away. He kicked her, and she fell on the ground. So what happened was she went and informed Bhima. That's all it took. Bhima let him have it. And he was very powerful personality. And when this is during the last year, the incognito year, the Kauravas heard, now we know where they are. They're the palace of King Virat, because who could demolish and make into like a bag of potatoes this Kishika? It's Bhima. Nobody has strength like Bhima. So they had a plan. The final day of the incognito period, they came and started with a whole army to take away all the cows that are part of King Virat's kingdom. And the cowherds came to inform the king. So Arjuna to the rescue. Now Arjuna, it's a fantastic section of Mahabharata. Arjuna had placed his weapons in a tree, a shami tree, and tied up in a cloth, and persons that didn't know what that was, they thought it was a dead body hung in a tree. So Arjuna, we stood corrected yesterday, Brinhala, he went with the sister of Uttara. So Uttara had a sister who had a brother named Uttara. Anyway, so they went and got the weapons, went up the tree, blah 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 blah, and then a big battle with the Arjun's weapons. The brother was to be the chariot driver. A very interesting scene. And with the two of them, just two of them defeated the entire army of the Kauravas. This is the day before the incognito period ended. And they gathered, see in the background, that's all the army. And it's just these two. It's actually just the one, chariot driver and Arjuna. There's this very detailed description what they found when they took this cloth bag from the tree. The description of the weapons and the bow, and they studded with this and that, and it's like very detailed description of all of Arjun's celestial weapons. We're on slide 112 of 133, nearing an end. You hear the drum roll? So now it's disclosed the Pandavas are not only alive, but they're the kingdom of Virat. Krishna comes with a peace message, because often Dwarka, the Vrishni dynasty, they're ready for battle. Krishna requests or is requested, make a peace offer. So he comes all the way from Dwarka to Hastinapur, spends first meeting with Kunti in Vidur's, because that's where she is. That's where she has been. They meet together, some nice discussions. Krishna makes his peace offer, which Duryodhana, of course, rejects. And that's it. There's war. You know the saying, give them 5 villages. I won't give them the amount of land you can fit under the head of a pin. There must be war. I can't live on the same planet with the Pandavas. there will be war. So war it is. Very interesting scene, very detailed description found, which you all should have a PDF. Later you can look at it. Kunti decides to go visit Karna because he's the powerful, most powerful warrior from the Kaurava's side. I'll just read. Kunti approached him. The first time she saw the youthful Karna enter the arena of Drona's martial exhibition, she knew he was her son. She also knew he was ignorant of the fact. It was painful to see him rivaling constantly with his brothers. She was mortified at the thought that they would soon try to kill each other in battle. It was time to tell Karna the truth. Perhaps he could be convinced to join his brother's side. So this is just a little snippet from a larger PDF, the whole section. Kunti wiped her eyes and glanced up at the sun. Why had that blazing deity put her through such pain? It had been an extremely difficult decision for her to reveal the truth to her firstborn son. She loved Karna, but she would surely find that impossible to accept. He would find it impossible to accept. Whenever she had contemplated telling him, the fear of his reaction had stopped her. Would he reject her out of hand, just as she had rejected him? Now, it no longer mattered. She was willing to risk his rejection and anger if it meant saving his life. So it's very emotion-filled. Lights go on all over the place, and because he, starts putting pieces of the puzzle together. Now I understand this and that and the other thing. But you abandoned me, and now you're asking me to come back. Why? These persons have maintained me. My father has maintained me. He's the chariot driver. I'm going forward. And she tried again, and he got more determined. And she realized this is the evening before the battle begins. The battle's about to begin. We'll hear some more when we hear some more about Bhima. But for all of his skullduggery, Duryodhana had the audacity to ask grandfather Bhishma to be his commander-in-chief. Now, have you ever heard the discussion? How could Bhishma, knowing how bad Duryodhana was, become his commander-in-chief? You ever had that question? We're going to hear it tomorrow. Stay tuned. There's a very good reason. There's multiple good reasons. The higher reason of all reasons is rasa, but there's a ethical reason, that is, he never depart from his word. The word that he gave to his father, who was the father of grandfather Bhishma? Santanu. So he told his father, I won't become king, but whoever is the king, I'll be supportive of them with my military power. Whoever is the king, unconditional. So he gave his word to his father. He's got to uphold his word to his father. So as bad as Duryodhana was, he keeps his word. So the battle begins. There's many, many nasty things that happened. Ghastly battle. There's nice paintings. One of the worst things, the very first day, that 7 generals ganged up and trapped in a certain military formation. They trapped Abhimanyu and killed him right on the battle because he was so unstoppable. 7 generals. It becomes important with the killing of Karna later, because he was one of the main persons involved in all of that, completely against Dharma. So many days later, there's a discussion between Arjuna and Krishna about killing Karna. And Arjun's ready. Krishna advises against it. He's still ready. He said, I don't care about this weapon he has, that's Indra's special weapon. Krishna recommends instead they ask Gatotkacha, who is very powerful and very mystical and very this and very that, to slay Karna. Is everything okay? Everything's okay? Huh? Are you okay? You sure? We can carry on? Okay. Look at Gatotkacha flying in the sky like that. So there's a whole day's battle, and in the end, Gatotkacha gets zapped with Karna's Shakti weapon that was given to him by Indra, and after the Shakti weapon kills Gatotkacha, it goes back to Indra. So his numero uno, like, can't stop me because I've got Indra's weapon. He doesn't have Indra's weapon anymore. And we're almost done. So the battle, Karna's wheel gets stuck, and Krishna orders Arjun, kill him, kill him. Karna says, what kind of instruction is this, Krishna? You're the abider by Dharma. Long discussion. What kind of Dharma are you the upholder of? You deserve death penalty. You did this, you did this, you did that, the other thing. Here you're getting your deserve. And sure enough, the deserve came and his head fell off. So at the end, it's not the end of the battle, but we're going to hear more about what we see in this painting here. There's grandfather Bhishma lying in the bed of arrows. It's not over yet because Ashvatthama makes an attempt to kill not only the sons of Draupadi, but to kill the child in the womb of Uttara. Krishna comes and protects. We heard about this already from Maharaj Parikshit in the womb of Uttara. And the battle is over. The slideshow is almost all over too. And Maharaj Yudhisthira is enthroned as the emperor. Some number of days pass. The Pandavas return back to their kingdom. Yudhisthira is crowned as the emperor again because he's already been, the Rajasuriya Yagya was done, so it's just a formality. And then we're going to hear what happens after that, some days after that. With Emperor Yudhisthira, they come to visit grandfather Bhishma, who's still lying on the bed of arrows on the battlefield. I mean, I can't figure out how they can let him lie in a bed of arrows in the battlefield, but they did. And then many things happened. So the final, Kunti, 35 years after the Battle of Kurukshetra, Dhritarashtra and Gandhari, inspired by Vidura, go to the Himalayas to give up their bodies. Kunti went with them. So when Dhritarashtra's body bursts into flame, Kunti and Gandhari enter into the flame. Hearing from Arjuna about the disappearance of the Yadus and the Lord's attaining his abode, Kunti became absorbed in the Lord with pure devotion and disappeared from the pastimes of this world. Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur writes, this describes her method of disappearing. Samstrate means from moving clearly from her appearance of pastimes in the world. She suddenly disappeared. So Kunti disappeared, Dhritarashtra and Gandhari disappear. And we've now completed the description of the exemplary life of Kunti. And there's so many more things. You read Mahabharata, please. very involved. Two hours. It's 2:00. You're probably hungry. Let's see if there's some discussion. This is a nice assembly hall, isn't it? The screen's a little small, but next time. And you could see 50%? 10%? 75%? So. Huh? Okay. Yes. Yeah, well, there's probably some somewhere.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the lecture. Maharaj, I believe a couple lectures ago, like a few nights ago, there was one devotee who asked, why was Takshaka chosen to kill Parikshit Maharaj? Or how did he know or something? And I don't know if the devotee is in the audience.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I was looking at this slideshow, and you know the part where it says the Khandava forest and Agni. I remember reading in the Mahabharata. I used to read much more when I was younger. Now I got a little busy with other things and it reduced. But I will see if I can find the reference.
Please.
I'm very sure that Mayadanava was in the forest and he ran and he said, okay, save me. And they saved him. Takshaka and his family used to live in the Khandava forest. But Takshaka was out during that time. He was not in the forest. But his family was burned down when Agni kind of inhaled the entire forest. And Takshaka came to know Arjuna was behind this. Arjuna was like not letting Indra's rain come down. And he was like, I'm going to either kill Arjuna or I'm going to kill his descendants. And he tried to kill Arjuna by mounting the arrow of Karna, but Krishna arranged the wheel to go down and it backfired. But then when he heard about Parikshit, so it was somehow destined that he was the one who Parikshit.
There's so many backstories behind the backstory behind the backstory in Mahabharata. But if you can find it, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, thank you so much for lots of stories. Very nice. So, Guru Maharaj, you were at the end saying that Dhritarashtra and Gandhari went to the forest, and also Kunti also went with
Yeah,
them.
that was my mistake. Thank you for catching it.
Okay. So, Kunti did not go with them.
Yes, correct. You're correct.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj.
Here she is.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful class. I have one question.
One?
Yeah.
Okay.
How did Krishna know from all the way to Dwarka? How did Krishna get it in the news in Dwarka?
How did you get the news in Dwarka?
Yeah.
Somebody sent him a text message. That was a joke. It doesn't say how he came to know, but there was some system. But first of all, he's omniscient, so he doesn't need somebody to send him a message. But somehow, some practical method of him coming to know was there. What that practical method, I don't know. Maybe a messenger went to him or something. I don't know. Okay. And just like we heard, sometimes messengers can travel quickly, just like the Pandavas, when they came all the way from the Himalayas to Hastinapur, their travel took much less time than normal. So by mystical means, sometimes things like that happen.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Behind you.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the very nice class. I have an appreciation as well as a question. Appreciation is for all the beautiful paintings, very colorful and descriptive. The question is, I'm trying to understand Draupadi being an expansion of Lakshmi Devi, and how, if Lakshmi Devi is always the consort of Narayan, how to understand she marrying, if we consider like Bhima is expansion of Vayu, like how to understand that who are demigods.
Well, how to understand Subhadra married Arjuna.
Is that Naranara?
I'm answering your question with a question. Or, as when Krishna appeared, demigods appeared along with him, or expansions of those demigods appeared along with him. And when Ramachandra appeared, offspring of the demigods appeared. So, for example, to respond to your question, when Krishna decided the disappearance of the Yadu dynasty is a very interesting section of the Bhagavatam. There was a plan in Dwarka where Vasudeva had a big yajna. And the big yajna was a big yajna where many, many, many demigods were invited to come and partake of sacrifices to the demigods. Now, Vasudeva's not a demigod worshipper. At the same time, he's honoring the Vedic system. And the demigods personally came to receive the offerings given to them. Brahma was one of the ones that came. Brahma arranged a private conversation with Krishna, thanking Krishna for taking care of the purpose for which the demigods had asked him to come, to deal with the demon. The demons are now killed. So if and when you so desire, you may wish to return to the spiritual world. Lord Brahma left. Krishna's contemplating, from our acharyas, Krishna's contemplating, my business isn't finished, because there's so many powerful members of the dynasty, the Yadu dynasty, and after I depart, Kali Yuga will begin, and when Kali Yuga begins, good persons will become deteriorated. Goodness will diminish, and so I have to remove them also. Then I can leave. So it was a 1-2 response. So an arrangement was made where the members of the Yadu dynasty could kill themselves off, the fratricidal war, by his own method. The description is there were two groups and then subcategories of those groups. One group were the demigods, partial expansions of which who had come into this world, returned to the heavenly kingdom. And the eternal associates of Krishna entered into their aprakat stage or situation. That's the description of our acharyas. So with that, you take that and expand it. And how is it that Draupadi, the partial expansion of the goddess of fortune, can become married not just to Bhima, or the son of Vayu, but all the others. How can the expansion of the goddess of fortune marry any human being, for that matter? A purpose of the Supreme Lord is being served. So it's not the goddess of fortune, but an expansion. And what does that mean? What does that mean? An expansion of the goddess of fortune. What does that mean? So one of the ways to think of what it means is an angsa, not the goddess of fortune, but an angsa, a fragmental portion of the goddess of fortune, entered into the body of Draupadi, and she became the expansion from Vyasadev's words. We can't take away his words. His words are what his words are. So what does it mean? An angsa of... So is it possible that the goddess of fortune can expand in a portion of her? Yes. And that portion of her enters into the body of Draupadi. And then by according to the plan of Krishna, pastimes are carried out where Draupadi marries 5. And it's just what's not possible for Krishna. And how he can do, by his unlimited powers, his potencies move in this way, that way, the other way, so that whatever he wants happens. So I don't see a contradiction or something like, how can that happen? And like at there's a section I didn't read it. I was looking at it before I came here, but I didn't read it. How each of the Pandavas returned to their prior position in Mahabharata. And in contrast, what happens to the Pandavas in Mahabharata is different than what happens to the Pandavas in the Bhagavatam. There's not, the report or the information, the understanding is not identical. The Bhagavatam picture is the expansions of the eternal associates of the Lord go back to their position of eternal associates of the Lord. And they perform some function while here to serve the purpose of the Lord. And then they return. I don't see a problem. You still see a problem?
No,
it's okay.
Sort of. Explains. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Maharaj, I just have a follow, if you're okay with that.
We have a hand over here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna! I like your harmonium.
Thank you for the wonderful class. So I have a question. How did Lord Kunti had 5 sons?
Why not? Why is there a problem?
I need help.
You need some help. Okay. Well, first of all, 4 of the sons were hers, Karna first, and then 3. The other 2 were sons of Madri. So she was remaining, therefore, in the absence of Madri, she was the mother of the Nakul and Sahadev. So the mother of 5 of the Pandavas, but 6, but actually 3 or 4. You follow what I'm saying? Yeah. So why a woman cannot have more than one son? Do you know any mothers that have more than one son? You don't know any mother? Do you have a brother?
Yeah.
Okay. So your mother has more than one son. So why Kunti can't have 5 sons? What's the problem? You're not sure. You're giggling too much.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Krishna, it was kind of similar. I was thinking once Queen Kunti revealed her benediction to Pandu, he kept he kept insisting and requesting her to invoke or like invite
Yes.
more demigods.
Yes.
Something similar. I was wondering the deep reason,
The reason why Pandu made that request?
like multiple times.
Why not?
Yeah, means yes.
Because, a father may want to have more than one son, but he can't be the father, so someone else can be the father more than once. Suppose he was able to produce his own sons and he could have more than one son, and he's not able, so she's able, so, dharmic-wise, it's fine. Okay.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. One of the slide, the chart slide had, it seems that Nanda Maharaj, Vasudev and Kunti are all kind of
On the same line.
Same line to me as a cousin or something like that. I understand from Vasudev and Kunti that they were cousin. Was Nand Maharaj also the cousin of?
He was a Vaishya son of Parjanya. You know the story? There were a number of brothers. The eldest brother was Upananda. Parjanya's eldest son was Upananda. When Parjanya was, so there's the king of Mathura, and then there's Vrindavan. So the Vrindavan was like the agricultural land that's part of Mathura. So there's the capital city and the agriculture that supports the city. So Vrindavan was one of those places that agriculture-wise supported the kingdom. So they would grow and give taxes to the king who owned the land. He's the landholder. They paid taxes for tilling the land. So Parjanya, when it came time for him to turn the kingdom over to his eldest son, there's a big ceremony. And at that ceremony, Upananda said, I'm the eldest son, but just see my name. It's Upananda, and there's Nanda. And he's the qualified one, so he should become the king, the successor of Parjanya. So that's what happened. So Shurasena was born of a Kshatriya mother. Parjanya was born of a Vaishya mother. So they had those different roles. Is that okay? Okay. Someone else that hasn't spoken yet? Yes?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Another detailed question.
A detailed question.
Yeah, I've only read the retelling of the Mahabharata by Krishna Dharma.
That's a good one.
It is, yeah. I'm uncertain of this detail, and it's always been on my mind. You had mentioned in the lecture that King Pandu had approached Madhuri inappropriately.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, he's virtuous.
Yes. He got controlled by his senses.
Okay, that answers my question.
Okay.
Yeah. Again,
Lust is very powerful. Even a man of virtue can succumb.
Thank you.
Up front. Pass it up front.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful class. So I have a question. So Pandu, when he renounced the kingdom,
I'm listening. You're on. Don't worry. I'm just sitting up because I'm sitting up.
yeah. So when Pandu had renounced the kingdom, he had decided to perform austerity so that he could reach the supreme destination.
Right.
So when he died, did he reach the supreme destination or not?
We'll have to ask him. He lived a virtuous life. I mean, I don't know of any. Does anybody in the room know of any shastra that says he attained such and such? Yes?
In the Rajasuya sacrifice, it was conveyed to Yudhishthira that Pandu had desired, because Pandu was in the kingdom of Yamaraj. That's what was explained. And it was Pandu's desire that Yudhishthira perform the Rajasuya. That's what I heard.
But what was his destination? That doesn't
To the
answer.
kingdom of Yamaraj. And
He went to
I
the
don't know
kingdom
who
of
brought that
Yamaraj.
news. I don't know who brought that news to Yudhishthira that he met Pandu in Yamaraj's kingdom.
Yeah. It's ringing a bell.
Wow.
It's in that same Krishna Dharma's book, Mahabharata.
That's a new one to me. But I like it. It's nice. He wanted to go to the kingdom of Yamaraj, and so he did.
I don't know if he wanted to go, but he was there.
Well, you go where you want to go. He was dharmic. He was, he was Pandu. And from that position, Pandu, instructed Yudhishthira to perform the Rajasuya Yajna. Krishna, you confirming that?
I'll try. I've definitely heard it, read it before.
But what I just said, you concur? You recall reading it?
So
Yudhishthira is in the abode of Yamaraj, and
Pandu is in the abode of Yamaraj.
Pandu is in the abode of Yamaraj, excuse me. And he conveyed somehow or other to Yudhishthira, do the Rajasuya Yajna.
That's what I remember reading, but again,
Okay. Then, this young lady is going to ask, how did he get that message to Yudhishthira so I can get elevated, please? So he didn't go to Yamaraj's abode because he wanted to. It was like, I don't want to be here and I want to be elevated from where I am. And so do this Rajasuya Yajna so I can be elevated.
and I also remember the part where,
I'm looking, do you recall he went to the abode, Pandu went to the abode of Yamaraj because, fill in the blank.
I didn't find a reason. I don't know.
Okay, see if you can find it. Or you see if you can find it. You see if you can find it. If he finds it, you can tell her. And because I know how to reach her, and she knows how to reach me. I'd like to get the answer to that. Thank you for your nice question. Look what you started. Okay. Over here?
Online.
Online. Let's go online. He doesn't need your microphone. He's got his own.
Hi Krishna Maharaj, this question is from Anita Mataji. When did Arjuna and Krishna meet first in person?
When did Arjuna and Krishna meet first in person? They call these stump the Swami questions. I don't remember. Do you remember?
Yeah, in the Draupadi Swayamvara.
And not before then?
Yeah, not before that.
You sure?
Yeah.
Krishna recognizes Arjuna and the Pandavas, and he actually points out to Balram, who was sitting next to him, that see those 5 people who are dressed as Brahmanas, they are not Brahmanas, they are Kshatriyas. Look at the shoulder, because Arjuna's shoulder had the mark of the bow.
Yeah.
And he recognized them. And Krishna and Balram actually follow, when Draupadi is married, they follow the Pandavas back to the hut. That's when the first beginning.
Wow. You have a good memory. I don't. Okay? Okay, there was a follow-up question over here, and I think we're going to end. Pass the microphone over this way.
Guru Maharaj, my follow-up question is, how do we understand even same way we have to...
How do you understand what?
The way we understand the Amsha of Lakshmi Devi, goddess of fortune, coming as a Draupadi, in the same way should we understand Subhadra directly coming as a goddess of fortune?
Not necessarily. This language of Angsa, I'm going to get right in front of the microphone. The nature of this language of Angsa has to do with associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who within one personality there's more than one. And that more than one has to do, my understanding is, it has to do with an angsa of that personality enters into the body of such and such in a person. So they're this and that, and sometimes even a third personality, according to Gauraguna Deshtapika. So my understanding, I can stand to be, when I say my understanding is, that there may be a more learned person that understands differently, and I'll be happy to hear it. My understanding is it's an angsa of that personality, very similar to what happens in Krishna's pastimes. It's not like the demigods who Krishna said, please take birth on earth so you can assist me in my pastimes. It's not like they hang a shingle outside their door and said, I'm sorry, I'm gone for 125 years, back in 125 years. It's an angsa of those personalities entered. And that angsa returned back to the original from whence they came. It's based on that understanding that the statement is, the statement was, I made a statement saying she, Draupadi, is an angsa of the goddess of fortune. Now your question specifically is it the same with Subhadra? And the answer is, I don't know. You have some comment?
I just wanted to add that Amsha word is very nicely described in Krishna Sandarbha.
Yes.
In the treatment of that verse.
Give him the microphone.
In the treatment of that verse, Ete cha Amsha Punakam Kala Pumsha.
Yeah.
So Amsha and Kalas are two different.
Yes, they are two different.
Expansions, and how, like Srila Prabhupada translates as portions and portions of the plenary portions.
Yes.
So there, a very, very detailed description is given of Amsha and how it's different.
But those are
Kala.
angsas of Krishna, and there may be angsas of a demigod,
Right.
or an angsa of Radharani. This came up, and so there may be more than one definition of angsa, one in relation to Krishna, angsas of Krishna, because living entities are also angsas of Krishna. Mam eva angsa jiva loke. And is it the same? Is it the same as the angsa of Krishna, who is Vishnu avatar, as the Kala, as opposed to Balaram and the other angsas? So be careful in taking it a very, very detailed definition and seeing, does it fit all circumstances? Be careful.
Thank you.
It may, but it may not. May fit a particular circumstance.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Scholarly devotees here. We're going to end. It's time for prasadam. Look at it, it's only 2:30. Srila Prabhupada ki. Right.